Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome to my Astro community. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about how this current Mercury in retrograde that's coming up is going to affect your zodiac sign. Now, with Mercury in retrograde, most of you guys probably already know about it. It has a pretty notorious reputation. And if you guys don't know about it yet, I do have a whole video about it and what it means and like the do's and don'ts of Mercury in retrograde, because there are certain things you should not do during this time. And I have the video about it on my channel. I'll link it on the screen and I'll link it down below. But anyway, Mercury in retrograde is all about the planet Mercury, right? And Mercury is the planet of communication. It's the planet of logistics. It's the planet that rules this sense of communicating our ideas and how we express ourselves. So it's going to affect each zodiac sign very differently. And so just to give you guys the dates, the pre-shadow for Mercury in retrograde started yesterday. So it started on February 3rd. And then Mercury in retrograde officially begins on February 17th. So in a few weeks. And overall, it's a time of reflecting, reassessing, and really recharging ourselves. It's not really a time of initiating things or creating new things. It's a time of just reflecting on what's already existing in our lives. And the really significant thing about this Mercury in retrograde is that it's going to be in Pisces. And what is Pisces all about? It's about spirituality. It's about the sense of transcendence. It's about the sense of inward reflection. Pisces is a very spiritual sign. And so that's going to be a major theme for the month of February. Obviously, Pisces season is going to be in February. Right now it's Aquarius season, but there's this very spiritual theme going on in the world and in society. And even more than that, Pisces energy and this energy that's going on in February with Mercury in Pisces, we're going to see the themes of dreams take place, the theme of creativity, the theme of imagination. Pisces kind of rules everything that's intangible, things we imagine with our minds, things we create with our minds. It's a very creative, very fluid time, if that makes sense. It's not a super sharp, super logical, or mentally acute time period. This is a time period that's very fluid, very flexible, and you're supposed to remain fluid and flexible during this time and not really stress yourself too much with mental acuity. And so overall, this is a time period collectively where we are focused on our dreams, our dream work, our past lives, reflecting on our own spiritual path, our own spiritual journey, connecting with our creativity, our imagination, all things that are very Pisces themed or Pisces ruled. Okay, so let's talk about how Mercury in retrograde will affect Aries. So Aries, Mercury in retrograde is going to be a very significant time for you. You're going to have Mercury going retrograde in your 12th house. And I feel like for Aries placements, you're really going to be feeling this retrograde very strongly because the retrograde is going on in Pisces, which I mentioned in the beginning of the video, and the 12th house is naturally associated with Pisces. So you are very much feeling this very Pisces energy, and as I mentioned, Pisces rules creativity, it rules imagination, dreams, isolation, as well as the sense of spirituality. So those are themes, Aries, you're really going to see during retrograde. I'll put the retrograde dates on the screen just so you guys can know when it is. Aries, during like February, this is a time where you're really focused on your spiritual journey. You're really focused on your spiritual self. Specifically, this is a time where you really are turned inward. This is a time where it's like you feel inclined to meditate, to journal, to remember your past lives. This is a time specifically where you might be dreaming about your past lives. Overall, too, with 12th house transits, it's a time where you might be a little bit like of a night owl where you're staying up all night, you can't sleep, you're having these very vivid dreams. Your nightlife is going to be very active because the 12th house rules nightlife and you're having a 12th house activated month. And so I would say specifically for Aries, this is a month where logic, mental acuity, and just like this overall sense of mental sharpness isn't going to be too present for you. This is a time where you're thinking more creatively, you're thinking more fluidly, you're being more flexible. It's a time where it's like you're almost kind of in this very dreamlike space where you're almost in, I don't know how to explain it, this very like fluid energy, which I think might manifest in the real life as being a little bit confused or disorganized or things like that. I think logistically you might have some challenges during retrograde just because you're not really in that very sharp space mentally. But I think on the flip side, you are very much channeling a lot of creative thoughts, creative energy. This is a very powerful creative time for you. This is a time where you can just receive ideas very easily, receive messages or download messages from spirit or divine or different dimensions, really. And overall, it's a time where you're very conscious of how you can transcend reality with your creativity maybe, or your imagination. Overall, with this energy for you, it's like you're transcending reality during this time and being in this very fluid, creative, spiritual space. And so basically, it's really advantageous for you to maybe write down your thoughts during this time, be very active with self-reflection. I don't think your energy is going to be very much projected outwardly during this time. This is a time where you're very inwardly turned, very spiritually inwardly turned, and not too much outwardly turned. And so basically with retrograde, as you guys know, there's things you should and should not do. Basically, there's a really important thing you guys shouldn't do, something you should avoid. And I mentioned this on my Instagram. So if you guys want to find out what you should not do during this time and what you should avoid during retrograde, go to my Instagram at AstroKit to find out what you should not do during this time and what you should avoid, and the biggest warning for you Aries during retrograde. Okay, so let's talk about Mercury in retrograde for Taurus. Okay, Taurus, so basically during retrograde, you're gonna have Mercury going retrograde in Pisces in your 11th house. And during this time, you're gonna have Sun in the 11th house as well. So overall, the 11th house is gonna be a major mental focus for you during retrograde. And I'll actually post the retrograde dates on the screen. It officially starts on February 17th, and it lasts for 2 weeks. So I'll post the dates on the screen so you guys can get an idea of when this energy will really hit you. But anyway, with this 11th house energy and having this Mercury retrograde in your 11th house, this is a time where you're really regrouping, where you're really reflecting on what your goals are in life, what you seek to achieve, and overall the sense of what you wish and hope to achieve in your life. And obviously the 11th house does rule those things. So this is a time where you're really thinking about your goals, not on a small level, not like your just day-to-day goals. This is a time where you're really reflecting on your major goals, your life goals, what you really seek to achieve with your life path. And then also you're really reflecting on who you're friends with. 11th house does rule groups, friend groups, organizations. So specifically for you, Taurus, I feel like you're really thinking about who you surround yourself with and how that contributes to your goals, to your life vision. And I'm not gonna lie, this could be a time where you cut people out of your life, where you maybe think of how your friend groups aren't really working. Maybe you reconnect with old friend groups or old organizations because you're really trying to fit almost like in a puzzle piece type of way how your friend group fits into your goals and the plans you have for those goals. And ultimately, I really feel like this is a time where you're realizing who your true friends are. And you're really drawing the connection between how those things have synergy together, and realizing how if the people in your life aren't serving those goals, then you aren't afraid to cut them out. So yeah, on a more like everyday level, during this time, you're definitely maybe reconnecting with old friends. This is a time where you also are maybe more active on social media. Maybe you're kind of revising things you post on social media, or re-editing things, or kind of revamping your social media potentially, because 11th house does rule social media too. And you can also be reconnecting with old friends through social media. So this is a time where I feel like people might hit you up through social media, people you used to be friends with, things like that. Expect this theme of social media to be present as well as in real life too. And then also this could be a time where gossip and rumors can be more prevalent too, just because Mercury does rule communication. It's retrograde in your 11th house of friend groups and stuff. So this could be a time where gossip, rumors, things like that might wreak havoc, just depending on, your friendships, friend groups, things like that. And ultimately with this retrograde, I will say that you are really reconsidering things, regrouping, and determining what you find valuable, and how you will let that into your life through your friends, and how that will affect your goals overall. During retrograde, it is a very sensitive time overall, in terms of like communication, logistics, and there are certain things you should not do and things you should totally avoid during this time. So lucky for you guys, I actually include what you should not do on my Instagram. Go to my Instagram at AstroKit, and on there you can see specifically what you should not do during this time if you have Taurus placements. Okay, so let's talk about how Mercury in retrograde will affect Gemini. So Gemini, Mercury is going retrograde in your 10th house. And overall during February and during retrograde, the 10th house is a very magnified house for you during that time. It's a house where the themes of that house are very amplified in your life during February. And I'll include the dates of Mercury in retrograde on the screen. It starts officially on the 17th, and it lasts for a few weeks. So I'll put the dates on the screen so you know when to really be mindful of this energy. So for you, Gemini, I really sense this is a time where you're really reflecting on your status in life. You're reflecting on how you are perceived by the world. You're really focused mentally on your reputation, how you're perceived, and your relationship with the public. And specifically, this can really manifest in career as well. So whatever you do as a career or a job, wherever you are publicly or professionally, you're really focused on that area of your life. And so this can manifest as it being a time where you are reflecting on the career you're in. Maybe you're reflecting on maybe how you're perceived by the people in that career or in that market. And specifically, I feel like your thought process is almost like, how does this career I'm in, how does this relationship I have with the public contribute to my legacy overall? How does it contribute to your goals overall? And you're really seeing life during this time from an elevated perspective. And specifically for you, since you are ruled by Mercury, you really might feel this Mercury in retrograde more powerfully than a lot of other signs. And I think another part of Mercury in retrograde, especially affecting you as a Mercury ruled person, where you really might feel confused, especially about your identity or your direction in life, or who you are at your core. So ultimately, there is a lot of reflection going on, but there might be a lot of confusion on the way there, or just overall a lot of miscommunications in your life. Hence why you're really focused from an elevated perspective on the kind of layout of your life in a sense. And I can almost really see Geminis kind of seeing life from that elevated perspective, like I mentioned, and just kind of like mapping everything out. It's like you're seeing yourself, you're seeing your life, you're seeing dynamics between you and other people from an elevated perspective, almost as if it was like a board or something, like a board game. During this time, you might try to realign that board game or realign that puzzle to fit your major goals or fit your vision in life. And so on a more like day-to-day basis, this could be a time where you're kind of re-editing your image, maybe your reputation, rebranding yourself in some sort of way. Maybe you do this through social media, through your LinkedIn page. This is a time definitely where like LinkedIn or like professional websites, you might be re-editing them or creating one or doing something to where you are more focused on how you're perceived by the public and editing the image you portray. And then also you might have misunderstandings with people during this time just because you are ruled by Mercury and it's retrograde in your 10th house. But specifically, you might have misunderstandings with authority figures, with your boss, people above you in some way who have some sort of authority over you. You might specifically have misunderstandings with those people. And then there are things you should and should not do during this time. And lucky for you guys, on my Instagram, I do tell you guys what you should not do during this time, what's totally something you should avoid for Geminis. So if you have Gemini placements, go ahead and head to my Instagram at AstroKit because I tell you guys what you should avoid during this time in order to be more successful and more fulfilled in life. Okay, so let's talk about how Mercury in retrograde will affect Cancer. So Cancer, Mercury is going retrograde in your 9th house. And overall during this time, and especially in February, you are going through a very 9th house themed month where the themes of the 9th house are very magnified in your daily life. And so I actually will put the dates of retrograde on the screen. It officially starts on the 17th, but you're going to really be feeling this energy during the entire month of February. But officially it goes retrograde on February 17th. And so with this energy and how it's going to influence you, this is a time where you are really reflecting on your beliefs. You're reflecting on your vision for your life, your hopes, your dreams, and what you truly believe to be true. you morally and philosophically. And really for Cancer during this time, I sense you're really going to be focused on the bigger picture of life. I feel like during February, especially during retrograde, your consciousness is going to be really elevated, really awakened. You're going to be very open-minded and just have this almost elevated perspective of yourself, of your life, and ultimately how what you believe affects your daily life. So as I mentioned, this can be a time where you're really reconsidering your morals, your ethics, what you believe to be true. It's a very philosophical time for you, so maybe you're just focused on your philosophy in life, what drives you to do what you do, what drives you towards your goals. You're really questioning at almost like a fundamental level what you believe to be true. And obviously you're doing this on kind of like an individual level or just having these thoughts by yourself. But I also feel for Cancer placements that you're going to be kind of almost re-examining or re-editing how you communicate your own personal truth with others. Like I can almost feel your thought process being like, okay, I believe this is true. I believe this moral standard, or I believe this ethical code. And then you're going to think, okay, how can I express this to other people? How can I portray myself in the world or in social dynamics or at school or wherever in a way that is authentic to my own moral beliefs, that is authentic to my own philosophies on life? So overall, you're really going to be mentally contemplating what is true, what is the truth, what you believe. You're going to be contemplating the sense of authenticity as well, and how your consciousness contributes to your daily life. And also it might be a very spiritual month for you as well, where you're really focused mentally on your own spiritual beliefs, your spiritual practices, and things of that nature that relate back to spirituality. And on an everyday level, this could be a time where you're really trying to manifest things. Maybe you're really focused or paying attention to the law of attraction. You just have this enhanced sense of spiritual awareness where you're really focused on those things. And I can kind of see you maybe reading books about those things or writing about those things. Anything having to do with communication, like reading, writing, talking, those are going to be the topics of conversation for you, the topics of reading or books you buy, and the topic of things you write. It's going to relate back to this sense of spirituality and belief system. And then there is something you really shouldn't do during this time and definitely avoid. And lucky for you guys, I actually included that on my Instagram. So go to my Instagram at AstroKit if you guys want to find out what you should avoid during this time, during retrograde, if you want to have a smooth month. Okay, so let's talk about Mercury in retrograde for Leo. So for you, Leo, Mercury is going retrograde in Pisces in your 8th house. And I'll include the retrograde dates on the screen, but it officially starts on February 17th, but pretty much you'll feel this energy for the entire month of February. So for you, Leo, and how this energy will influence you, it's definitely a time of mental cleansing for you. This is a time for you where there's like this almost like flashlight or magnifying glass on your inner thoughts, on your psychology, on your mental thought patterns. This is a time where you're really becoming aware of what you think subconsciously. It's a time where you're realizing, okay, I have this subconscious belief that is kind of hindering your everyday life. So you're gonna be on this almost sort of mission to cleanse your mind, cleanse your subconscious mind especially, of those thought patterns, of those beliefs that kind of stop you from living your life to its fullest capacity. And so during this time specifically, one thing you might be aware of is like your self-sabotaging behaviors or even self-sabotaging thoughts. This is a time where you're really analyzing your own self-worth and how what you believe about yourself in your mind contributes to how you act in public or act with other people. And it's almost like you're doing like a psychoanalysis on yourself or psychoanalysis on your own mind. There's this really huge theme of subconscious thoughts, this huge theme of your own psychology or psychology in general during this time. And so definitely for Leos, during retrograde, you're definitely transforming what you believe about yourself. You're transforming your thought patterns, transforming maybe toxic thought patterns that you have, and creating new ones. And I feel like you're really building your self-worth on a fundamental level during this time. You're really questioning to yourself how you feel about yourself on a genuine level, not just like a superficial level. To take it a step further, you're really realizing how your own perception perception of yourself kind of manifests in intimate relationships, manifests in social dynamics, and how what you believe about yourself leads to the people you attract into your life. And I feel like you're really realizing that what you believe about yourself really determines who you attract into your life. And during this time, you might be motivated to change yourself and then therefore change the kind of people you attract. And then also there is something that you guys really shouldn't do during this time. There's something that you guys should definitely avoid during retrograde. And I actually included on my Instagram what that is. So head to my Instagram at AstroKit if you guys want to find out what you should really avoid during this time in order to have a smooth month. Okay, so let's talk about Mercury in retrograde and how it will affect Virgo. Okay, Virgo, so Mercury is actually going retrograde in Pisces in your 7th house. And then overall, as I mentioned in my February predictions video, this time is going to be very 7th house activated for you, and you're really going to see the themes of the 7th house being magnified in your daily life. And then I'll also add the Mercury in retrograde dates on the screen. It officially starts on February 17th, but you're really going to feel this energy kind of throughout the whole month. And so specifically how this energy will really affect Virgo is that it's going to affect your partnerships and how you view yourself in partnerships and how you view the people you partner with. So mentally, you're really going to be focused on partnership dynamics and really focus on how you influence those dynamics and how those dynamics really influence you. Really specifically for you, Virgo, I sense that this is a time where you're really reconsidering your boundaries in relationships. As someone with Virgo placements, especially if you're a Virgo rising watching this, your 7th house is Pisces, and you can struggle with setting boundaries with people and reinforcing boundaries in your relationships. So this is a time where you're really aware of how those boundaries or lack thereof affect you and how that affects your life and kind of like the success and well-being of the relationships you're in. So this is a time where I almost see Virgo, almost like maybe you're literally writing down your boundaries in partnerships, or it would be a good idea to do that. Maybe it's a time where you're writing down your standards, what you will and will not accept, what you will and will not allow into your life. And honestly, I will say that as a Virgo, you are someone that does like to put a lot of energy into other people or put a lot of energy into relationships and really care about the people you partner with. And so during this time, you're really reconsidering the kind of people you invest that time into, the kind of people you invest yourself into, and whether or not that's valuable for you or whether or not that leads to more success or prosperity in your life. And so Virgo, for you, out of all of the zodiac signs, you definitely probably will have your ex hit you up or past lovers hit you up. It's going to be a time where you're really, thinking about your past baes, lovers, etc. And it's not really a good time to get back with anyone, or it might not be a very favorable time to reunite with people. It's more of a time to reflect on those dynamics and, like I said, why it didn't work, what boundaries were set, what standards were set, and how you want to change those for the future. And this is also a time where you might have a lot of misunderstandings, especially like verbal misunderstandings with people, like you're close to, partnerships, best friends, things like that. Because obviously Mercury rules communication, it's in your 7th house. So people you come in contact with, you might often have miscommunications with, which might lead to disagreements, things like that. So it's good to be wary of things you say, things you write to people, and really revise things before you say them, send them, or edit them. And then there is one major thing you should not do during this time and should definitely avoid if you want to have a smooth month and a smooth life. And I actually include what that is on my Instagram. So go to my Instagram at AstroKit to see what you should definitely avoid doing during this time. Okay, so let's talk about how Mercury in retrograde will affect Libra. So Libra, during this time, Mercury is going retrograde in Pisces in your 6th house. And I'll actually include the dates on the screen of Mercury in retrograde. It officially starts on February 17th, but you're really going to be feeling this energy for the entire month. And then, like I said, also in my February predictions video, the month of February is going to be very 6th house activated for you. So you're going to see these 6th house themes really play out and be magnified in your daily life. So how this energy really influences you, Libra, is that in February, and especially starting on the 17th, you're going to be really focused on your health, your routine, what you do on a daily basis, and how productive that is for you. And this is definitely a time of reorganization for you. I feel like the theme of productivity is going to be really relevant. And like I said, you're really going to be analyzing your daily routine and whether or not that is productive for you, and ultimately if that's a healthy choice you should make every single day. And I really feel like all this energy is directed at this theme of healing for you. And so during this time, you might be really focused on your own healing mentally. Maybe you're mentally healing some thought patterns, or just overall mentally healing yourself, whether it be about your thought patterns, the way you think, maybe things you believe about yourself or believe in your life. I feel like you're really healing those patterns, healing really your mental space overall. I really feel like obviously mental health is magnified for you. Overall, there's this idea of health really magnified for you. And I feel like the question you're really asking yourself during this time is, how can I be more healthy? How can I do things in a more healthy way? How can I do things in a way that contributes to my overall physical health and mental health too? So how this manifests on a day-to-day basis and in your everyday life, I feel like you're going to be really analyzing what you eat on a daily basis, how your space is organized, how your room is organized, how your job space is organized. Sixth house does rule job as well, so you might be reorganizing things there or re-implementing things there. So it is more so recommended to kind of reflect on your diet, reflect on your routine, what you do every day, like if you do yoga, do you work out, really reflecting on the things you do every day and how that contributes to your productivity. It's not a really great time to start new diets or start new workout routines, but really reflect on what you already do. Also, this is the time where it's like you have fluctuating productivity levels, so maybe you feel really motivated to do something at one moment in time and then an hour later you're just dead. So your kind of energy levels, your health levels might fluctuate during this time, and you might struggle with being motivated throughout the day or having enough energy throughout the day. I think you might be a little bit drained during this time, and especially logistically kind of run into a lot of roadblocks, or things don't run smoothly for you on a day-to-day basis because of this Mercury energy kind of confusing you a bit. But I do feel like in February it is more beneficial to meditate, do yoga, do very grounding, very spiritual things to kind of help your mental space and your physical space too. And really be aware of what you eat during this time, and be more discerning about your diet and what's healthy for you and your body. And then there is something you definitely should not do during this time and should definitely avoid at all costs in order to have a smooth life. And I actually include what that is on my Instagram, so follow me on Instagram at AstroKit if you guys want to see what you should avoid during this time in order to have a smooth day-to-day life. Okay, so let's talk about Mercury in retrograde and how it will affect Scorpio. So for you, Scorpio, Mercury is going retrograde in your 5th house. And so as I mentioned in my February predictions video, overall February is going to be a very 5th house themed month for you. And so basically the themes of the 5th house are going to be very magnified in your day-to-day life. And also I'll put the retrograde dates on the screen. It officially starts on February 17th, but you're really going to be feeling this energy for the month of February overall. And so with this 5th house energy at play here, it's definitely a time where you're mentally focused on your inner child. This is definitely a time for Scorpio where you're really reconnecting with your inner child, and maybe even in a creative way or very imaginative way. This could be a time where you remember your old hobbies from childhood. Maybe you do one of your old hobbies or participate in one of your old hobbies that you did when you were a child that you maybe forgot that you did. And overall, you might be very nostalgic about your childhood overall. And it's really recommended to channel that energy into creative projects, creative hobbies, and just do it with the kind of open-minded sense of curiosity. And for Scorpio placements, I really sense this energy of you reconnecting with your inner child and really remembering what makes you truly happy. And I know with Scorpio energy, I know you guys can have this very focused, determined, very grounded, serious mind, but during February and especially during retrograde, you're going to be a lot more playful, a lot more focused on the sense of childlike creativity. You're really going to be channeling your energy into your own happiness and really focus on developing that happiness overall in your life. And then also 5th house is the house of romance as well, so this could be a time where you're really reflecting on your past lovers, maybe not super serious relationships that you've had because that's more like a 7th house thing, but with 5th house it's more like superficial dating that you did in the past maybe. So maybe you're reflecting on those past relationships, maybe you're reflecting reflecting on how those past lovers you had influence how you behave in relationships in this present day. And then also on that same note, past lovers, past baes, or people you had flings with might hit you up as well, or contact you in some way. And then of course, given that this is still retrograde, there is one thing, Scorpios, you guys should not do during this time. Something you should definitely avoid if you want to have a smooth day-to-day life. And I actually include what that thing is on my Instagram. So if you guys want to find out the one thing you should avoid during this time, so go to my Instagram at AstroKit so you guys can have that smooth day-to-day life and avoid any hiccups. Okay, so let's talk about how Mercury in retrograde will affect Sagittarius. So for you, Sagittarius, Mercury is going retrograde in Pisces in your 4th house. And as I mentioned in my February predictions video, the 4th house is going to be very activated for you in February. So it's a time where you see the themes of the 4th house really magnified in your daily life. And then I'll also include the dates for retrograde on the screen. It officially starts on February 17th. However, you're really going to feel the energy influence you for the entire month of February. So for you, Sagittarius, this is a very significant retrograde for you because you're really going to be mentally focused on the major aspects of life. You're going to be focused on home, family, as well as your career and partnerships. But even more specifically, you're really going to be focused on this sense of home, this sense of foundations. You're going to be really reflecting on where you come from and how that lays out your path in the future. So overall, with this 4th house energy at play here, I feel like you're really going to be very nostalgic during this time, and you are going to be really remembering your childhood and remembering instances in your childhood that really shaped you to who you are today. And it's almost like you're going to be specifically remembering like these childhood circumstances or childhood instances and how that shapes your behavior in relationships, how that shapes your communication in relationships. And then also how those childhood instances or childhood circumstances influence your public life, influence your work life, your reputation, or your career life. So it's almost like during this time, you're mentally focused on the root of your life, if that makes sense, like the roots, like where you come from, maybe the roots of some of your problems you have in your life, and then also how those roots that were kind of planted during your childhood create patterns in your daily life. So you're really focused on the foundations during this time. You're really focused on your roots, the fundamentals. You're not really focused on the superficial aspects of life. You're really focused on like the more inward aspects of life, and more specifically your past as well. So during this time, don't be surprised if you're really thinking about your past a lot or thinking about your childhood. You're really meant to think about those things just to reconsider how that shapes your daily life. And then also on a more like day-to-day level and how this energy will affect you, maybe this is a time where you're recharging at home more. Maybe you're just more like present in your home, like physically. Maybe you're more present in your home. Maybe you're more active with your family. It's a time where, like I said, you're kind of turned more inward or focused more on your inward life. Maybe literally you could be like redecorating your room. And then, like I said, recharging spiritually at home, staying home more, not really putting yourself out there too much. And this could be a time where you revisit your old home, or let's say you live somewhere new or a new city or something. Maybe you go and revisit your old hometown. You revisit your house you grew up in. Maybe you revisit some sort of like place you went to a bunch of times as a kid. I definitely see Sagittarius maybe doing that. So let's say you went to a specific ice cream shop when you were a kid. Maybe you go back to that same shop. And it just like brings up all this nostalgia for you during retrograde. Then of course, with this still being retrograde, there is one really important thing, Sagittarius, you should not do during this time, and something you should really avoid if you want a smooth everyday life. And I actually include what that is on my Instagram. So if you guys want to see what specifically you should avoid during this time in order to be more successful, head to my Instagram at AstroKit to see what exactly that is. Okay, so let's talk about how Mercury in retrograde will affect Capricorn. So Capricorn, Mercury is going retrograde in Pisces in your 3rd house. And as I mentioned in my February predictions video, overall in February, it's going to be a very 3rd house themed month for you. So you're really going to see these 3rd house themes being magnified in your everyday life. And I'll actually include the Mercury in retrograde dates on the screen for you guys, just so you guys have an idea of when it starts. It officially starts on February 17th. However, you're really going to be feeling this energy overall throughout the month of February. So Capricorn, Mercury in retrograde is definitely going to hit you guys really hard, just because Mercury is going retrograde in the 3rd house, and the 3rd house represents communication. So this is a time where your mental space, mental activity is very active for you. It's almost like a time where you have a very busy mind, almost to the point where you might be a little bit stressed out. This is definitely a time where you are getting a lot of ideas. Maybe you're channeling a lot of creative ideas or channeling a lot of creative insights, and you might even have the urge to really communicate it with people. Although because it is retrograde, you might have trouble communicating or have misunderstandings communicating these said ideas that you will get. So because of this, it's really recommended that you really think twice before you say things. And it might be a really good idea too to just like journal during this time, or have a journal, because you're going to be very mentally busy during this time and just having a lot of thoughts, a lot of ideas. They're just going to be coming to you very quickly, very vibrantly, very vividly. So you're going to want to have like some outlet for that. So you're really going to want to have an outlet for that, and it's really good to do it through writing, because Mercury does rule writing. And then also during this time, you're really reflecting on how you communicate with people. Like maybe you're really thinking about your own personal communication style, what you say to people, how you communicate your ideas. And then like I said, for Capricorn, I really feel like you guys will have this urge to want to communicate more with people. If you're someone who's naturally a little bit, like if you're somebody who is naturally a little bit more closed off, or maybe you don't speak that much about your ideas or certain things that you think, I feel like during this time you're really going to be reanalyzing how you can communicate better, how you can communicate your ideas with more people in a more authentic way to who you truly are. And I also feel like that goes hand in hand with this other theme that you might experience, where it's like you really analyze and filter what you say to people, or you become aware of how you filter yourself, or if you shouldn't filter yourself, or if you should filter yourself more. I think you're definitely going to have that kind of mental, I guess, debate with yourself about what you filter, what you don't filter, and how you should communicate better in the future. Then also Capricorn, I will say that it's a really important time for intuition for you. I definitely feel like your intuition is going to be very activated during this time. Like I said, you're going to be very mentally busy, thinking a lot, over analyzing, maybe a little bit too much. But I feel like with all of that, you're going to be getting messages from spirit. You're going to be getting synchronicities. You're going to be just really seeing the spiritual side of life and getting spiritual messages. And like I said, it's really great to write those things down, talk to someone, or I don't know, film a video about it, anything like that, where you really pay attention to those spiritual messages you get. And then also it's very powerful because you could be downloading creative messages or creative ideas as well. This is the time where it's like you can manifest like $1 million idea very easily, or if you wanted to manifest like a creative idea that would be great for your business or bring you money in some way, or just success in general, this is the time during retrograde to manifest like that $1 billion idea, $1 million idea, 6-figure idea, anything like that. You can download creative ideas very easily during this time, and it's really good to write them down during this time and then act on them once retrograde is actually finished. And then also, since it is still retrograde, there is one really important thing you should not do during this time, and something Capricorns should really avoid during this time. So if you guys want to find out what you should definitely avoid during this time in order to have a smooth day-to-day life, go to my Instagram at AstroKit to see what exactly that is. Okay, so let's talk about how Mercury in retrograde will affect Aquarius. Okay, Aquarius, so Mercury is actually going retrograde in Pisces in your 2nd house. And as I mentioned in my February predictions video, overall the month of February is going to be very 2nd house themed for you. So you're really going to see the themes of the 2nd house play out in your day-to-day life throughout February. And so I'll actually put the dates of retrograde on the screen. It officially starts on February 17th. However, you're still going to really feel this energy manifest throughout the entire month of February. So for you, Aquarius, this theme of reevaluation is going to be really magnified for you. And specifically for you, this is the time where you're really reevaluating what you find valuable, how you value yourself, and how that affects your partnerships overall. And this is a time where you really are distinguishing your values, what you value mentally, what you value physically, what you value spiritually. Anything as it pertains to values, you're really becoming aware of during this time. And I can almost imagine too, Aquarius, like writing down those things, like specifically almost writing down and specifying certain areas of your life and what you find valuable within each of those areas. And then of course the second house does rule finances as well, so maybe you literally are reevaluating your finances, what you find valuable financially especially. This is a time where you might be very hyper aware of your spending habits and whether or not that's conducive to a healthy lifestyle for you. And this could be a time where you gain new financial knowledge, and financial knowledge that kind of helps you on your financial journey, like whatever financial journey you're on. This could be a time where you create a plan for that journey. Or if you're, let's say you're on the path of like financial freedom, that's your goal, let's say, this could be a time where it's really great to kind of map out that goal and really review how your past knowledge of money or your past knowledge of finance contributes to your new plan or your path going forward as it pertains to financial freedom, let's say. And also it's a time where you're really realizing the best way to distribute your finances, the best way to distribute your resources. Like I said, you're really aware of these second house themes of finances, resources, money, and like things you own. And specifically for you, Aquarius, I definitely see you redistributing your money in a way that allows you to invest in your creative hobbies too. Like this could be a time where you reallocate your money in such a way that allows you to spend more money on your creative hobbies, your creative projects. Let's say you just spend money on things that you need for survival. But during retrograde, I feel like specifically you're going to be redistributing your finances to make a budget for your creative hobbies, make a budget for investing in yourself, making a budget for investing in your happiness overall. And I really see you prioritizing yourself and really investing in yourself going further into 2020. Then also on a more emotional level, you're really reconsidering your own self-worth and how you project that into romantic dynamics. Like I've been saying, the whole theme of your month is the sense of value, what you find valuable. And you're going to really be looking at yourself introspectively and seeing what you value about yourself, if you even value yourself, like how high is your self-esteem, things like that. And you're going to take it a step further and really analyze how that manifests in romantic dynamics and how the people you attract is based on your own self-esteem. And there is one really important thing, Aquarius, you really should not do during this time. Something you should definitely avoid if you want a smooth everyday life. And I actually include what that thing is on my Instagram. So head to my Instagram at AstroKit if you guys want to find out what you should definitely avoid during retrograde in order to have a successful everyday life. Let's talk about how Mercury in retrograde will affect Pisces. So Pisces, Mercury is actually going retrograde in your sign. So it's going retrograde in Pisces in your first house. So as I mentioned in my February predictions video, the month of February is going to be very first house themed for you, and themes of the first house are going to be magnified in your everyday life. And so I'll put the dates of retrograde on the screen. It officially starts on February 17th. However, you're really going to feel this energy all throughout the entire month of February. And so for you, Pisces, during this time, this is a very monumental time for you just because you're really focused mentally on this theme of self-reflection. The first house is such an important house in astrology because it really represents who you are. It represents your personality, your soul, how you approach life. And so in February, Pisces, it's almost like you are taking a mirror and like looking at yourself very deeply and very introspectively. And you're really gaining this awareness of who you truly are. And specifically, I feel like you're really reflecting on how you project yourself in the world. Now you can be reflecting on how you project yourself in a physical way, in a like personality way. In the way you kind of communicate your identity to people. or project your identity in social dynamics. And so when it comes to identity and personality, you're going to be focused on those things during this month and during retrograde. And specifically, I feel like you're really focused on your own authenticity, and you're really focused on your own uniqueness and your own quirkiness as well. Also, you might really reflect on how have you acted in the past, and if it's aligned with a sense of authenticity. Do you behave in a way that's true to yourself? Do you behave in a way that really magnifies your authenticity? I feel like you're really going to be pondering those specific questions in February and during retrograde. And then also for Pisces, I really feel like you're going to be stepping into your higher self, really stepping into who you truly are, and really not being afraid to project that to other people and project that in social dynamics. Because you have Aquarius as your 12th house, and oftentimes you might really hide who you truly are, or hide your weirdness, hide your quirks, or hide your uniqueness. And I feel like because of this retrograde, you are gaining the self-confidence to be who you truly are. And I really feel for Pisces that you're really gaining this sense of courage to project your authenticity to others, which you might struggle with. And then also with this retrograde, it kind of shows you, like I said, it's like a mirror where it shows you where you kind of were inauthentic in the past, where you weren't true to yourself. And after analyzing those moments, you kind of realize why you should be who you are and how you're going to do that in the future. And then also, as I mentioned, the first house and having retrograde be in this house, it's really like you're altering your perception on life as well. You're altering your perspective on the world, how you approach the world. And you're also realizing how your perception of the world is the direct reflection of the perception of yourself, and how everything in your life really begins with yourself and making those inner changes and being aware of who you truly are. And since you're kind of viewing yourself in a more authentic way, I feel like you're going to be viewing the world in a more authentic way and attracting authentic experience to yourself, attracting authentic people to you, because you're finally taking that big leap of being authentic yourself. So I really feel like you're on the verge of this huge life transformation, but it's not starting externally, it's starting internally with you. And then also I will add, on like an everyday basis and in your regular life, I feel like you're going to be more creative, more fluid, more flexible. And this is a time where it's like you're not super like mentally sharp, but you're more creative, you're more imaginative. And it's a great time to pay attention to the signs you see, the messages you get from spirit. You're going to be downloading a lot of information from spirit, from your higher self, from other dimensions. So it's really important to kind of be present in that space and meditate, do things like that. Don't get too frustrated if there's misunderstandings or miscommunications, because you're more so meant to be in this creative, spiritual, imaginative space in February. And then also your 7th house is activated during this time as well, so you're going to be aware of partnerships as well, and how you behave in partnerships, and really how your identity manifests with other people. You might be reconsidering your boundaries with people, reconsidering your standards, things like that. Partnerships is also going to be the main focus for you in February, and specifically from the perspective of your own identity and how that merges with other people's identities. Of course, given that this is still retrograde, there is one really important thing, Pisces, that you should not do during this time, and something you should definitely avoid in order to have a smooth everyday life. And I actually include what exactly that thing is on my Instagram, so head to my Instagram at astrokit if you guys want to find out what you should not do during this time in order to have a smooth everyday life. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video.